Hello everybody and welcome to Wheeler Sports Talk. This is the round 2 roundup of the AFL season. We started off with Carlton versus Geelong, and Carlton really able to carry on with what Collingwood did in round 1, where they're really able to open up Geelong's defence. Really able to work hard, fighting for the football, being able to win in the corridor, forcing a lot of play out wide on the wing. A lot of pressure, and I just think Carlton really able to dominate, like how Collingwood were able to do when they kicked the last 8 goals in round 1. A lot of pressure from both teams, causing a lot of turnovers and errors, from both sides. Carlton and Geelong, the accuracy inside 50, despite all this pressure, despite all of this, really the accuracy just wasn't there. Although having said that, Charlie Curnow and Cameron, really consistent, and Silvani able to be really creative as he is usually, really, really solid performances from those guys, but you would expect that from them. It's just the rest of the players need to step up now. You're the reigning premiers, particularly Geelong, reigning premiers. You've got to be able to bring in that consistency, that fluidity. You're reigning, but now you're 0-2. Quite frankly, the way Geelong have been playing at the moment, it's simply not good enough. They have to be better. I don't know what's gone wrong. Where is it? Just because they don't have Joel Selwood? It can't just be because of Selwood. He was a good captain for them. He was able to, lead really well, absolutely phenomenally well. What's happened? What has gone wrong at Geelong? The wheels have sort of fallen off a little bit. They're that's where they're at, I think. Having said that, they were able to fight back. Carlton struggling to kill the ball. They need to take time off the clock, slow the game down, slow the pace. But they just kept wanting to go hard and fast. Why? You kept turning it over, giving it to Geelong. Jeremy Cameron able to bang 6 goals. You just got to kill the ball. Get the stoppage, kill the ball, take time off the clock, slow it down. And then we move on to Brisbane versus Melbourne. This game, really controlling the game, massive improvement after the Port game from the Lions. Melbourne, worst clearance differential, and they were getting dominated. Obviously Max Gawn went out injured very, very early on. And losing Max Gawn, they just couldn't recover. Melbourne always looked strong from last year. I thought they could carry on that run. But seeing that performance against Brisbane, who, let's be honest, weren't that great. Melbourne looked alright. But then here they were just flat-footed. Brisbane, Zorko, Lockie Neal have been excellent in that game. Danaher, solid goal kicking. But they're consistent players for Brisbane. It was nice to see those guys really, really step up. Melbourne didn't really have, anything going, because they were trying to do the long bomb, into the inside 50. It didn't work. They kept turning it over, and then Brisbane able to go out the back into their inside 50, kick goals. It just, whatever Melbourne's strategy was that game, obviously Max Gawn wasn't part of that strategy. Him going out injured was definitely not part of that strategy, and they just couldn't recover. They went flat. And then to add more excitement to that game, power outage at the Gabba, causing the lights to blow out with a fire. It was more exciting than the actual match. I thought the game was pretty boring. I thought Brisbane did well, much improved, so fair play to them. I expected better from Melbourne, and I kind of got a bit bored. 12 minutes left of the fourth quarter, I was like, this is getting boring now. But then all of a sudden, bang, light bulbs out, and I'm like, oh, now this is exciting. Um, and then after the power outage, Melbourne were able to fight back. Like Brisbane just stopped. They didn't defend, and then Melbourne were able to come back and really be able to rectify the percentages, you know. So all in all, power outage made the game more exciting. Who would have thought? Right, moving on. Collingwood versus Port. This is Port Power, so moving on to another power. Good tackling pressure from both teams. You know, particularly early on as well. You know, it was goal for one end, goal to the other, goal back and forth for about 5 minutes. But then Pie is able to even apply forward pressure even more than what Port Power are doing. And they're also able to apply defensive pressure from Collingwood. And I was actually impressed by this goal from Fantasia. Collingwood pressure, able to get the ball down, and they almost tried to kill the ball. Fantasia scoops it up and kicks from like a remarkable angle with high pressure as well. I thought it was a fantastic finish. McCreary with a great finish, left hook round the post. After Collingwood sort of conceded that goal, McCreary able to come and deliver with that. I just think Collingwood and Port responded well to each other pretty early on, as I said earlier. But the Collingwood side just end up becoming too strong. You know, the defence just had to work really, really hard because that ball coming inside 50 was just super, super fast. Like, it was ridiculously quick ball movement. You know, centre clearance, bang, inside 50. Defence just have to be switched on like that. You know, it's rapid. It was ridiculous. You know, and what with Collingwood's tackling pressure, you know, last year, high tackling side. Now we're applying the tackles with our quick ball movement. So as soon as we lose it, bang, we've got it back. Bang, we've got it back. We've lost it. Bang, we've got it back. Like, it is just clockwork is the word I was looking for. And they look absolutely threatening, Collingwood, which is good for me. I'm a Collingwood fan. So yeah, not only was there a power outage at the Gabba, there was a power outage at the MCG with Collingwood winning. You would love to see it. No, I mean, it was an entertaining match for sure. Port were able to stay strong for like the first 5-10 minutes, but Collingwood, blimey, that was something else. That was ridiculously good. And now we move on to the Richmond versus Crows. There was a dangerous tackle. I can't remember who did it. I know it was a Richmond player on a Crows player. I can't remember who were involved in that. It was unnecessary follow through. Like, he's already got the bloke on the boundary, and then he decides to swimming onto the deck. It was unnecessary, and I think he got 4 weeks for that, which I'm surprised by because I don't think it was as bad as Pickett's hip and shoulder. However, I do think, yeah, he should have got weeks for it, but I don't think 4, considering Pickett only got 3. Where's the consistency? But I mean, it was just the second motion of it. I could see what he was attempting to do. He just got overzealous with it, and it happens. Richmond looked very strong going through the middle, and that's just because Adelaide can't close down the space, and particularly inside 50. Richmond just absolutely dominating the game, which you knew they were going to bounce back. They weren't going to be happy with a draw, you know, from last round, so this time they were looking for that win. And the Crows, it's just poor decision making, really. You know, I mean, okay, second half, Richmond's defence did switch off, but they're a young side and they'll learn from that. Crows are able to claw back, get some momentum going, just not effective with the ball at all. And then Richmond, all of a sudden, able to thread the needle again, roll the dice, and then the margin got back out, and they really dominated the majority of the game. So Richmond look a bit frightening, to be honest, because I don't think it's going to be Collingwood versus Richmond. Let me have a look. Let me see if I got this right. Bear with me. Give me a second. Round 3. Yeah, there we go. Friday night. Well, my morning. Aussie's night. It's Collingwood versus Richmond. I think that's going to be an exciting game. Because both teams love that corridor. And then when the corridor gets a bit too congested, move the ball out wide. Both Richmond and Collingwood have been doing that very, very well. I'm very much looking forward to it. Now, this was an interesting game. This was the North versus Fremantle game. It was really muggy, really humid, so fatigue was going to factor in quite early on. I was expecting it to be sort of until the second half, but everyone sort of became fatigued in like the second quarter. It was tightly contested footy. You know, who can grab the opportunities, front of centre the best is what it came down to. You know, as I said, hard-fought game. You know, and with the muggy and humid conditions, just that fatigue just really set in because of all the pressure, the hard-fought football. And with that, Fremantle really struggled to find targets inside 50. They had the entrances, just couldn't capitalise on those entrances and couldn't really apply real pressure to North really until the final minutes. And I thought this was going to go down to the wire, and it did. A 1 point game. You know, they could have tied it up. There could have been a draw. But after the game, there looked to be a deliberate out of bounds, which would have favoured Freo. At first glance, I thought it was a 60-metre from a tight angle. But I have watched it back, and it looks more like a 49-metre kick in. But the angle looked very, very difficult. You would have either needed to torpedo the ball or go for a banana, particularly just to even get the journey from that tight angle. And personally, I can't think of anyone that Freo's got in their young side that has that in their arsenal yet. They're such a young side. They're going to struggle this year with all the other experienced players that are able to already teach the younger guys in the squads, in the teams, what they know. Fremantle are trying to learn on the fly a little bit just because they haven't really got anyone of experience. You know, they haven't got a Dusty Martin, they haven't got a Franklin, they haven't got a Pendlebury able to, you know, pass the torch over a little bit. You know, they haven't got, you know, a Dangerfield. They haven't got a Selwood. You know, they haven't got big names, experienced big name players. Really, they've got one. They've got Nat 5. But he hasn't really helped. You know, you look at him and you see what he's trying to do with young players. He's more of a hindrance. You know, yeah, he used to be good, okay. He's not in form. He's always injured. You know, where does the buck stop with that? You know, do you say, does it stop with the coach? Is it with 5? You know, you've got young guys that need experience. You've got to look. I think it's time to start looking for someone else that you think could help bolster the ranks a little bit, you know, really help out. And speaking of another team that's struggling, without Lance, you know, without Buddy Franklin, because he got that 1 week ban for the hip and shoulder, it was always going to be a question of how would Swans be able to sort of handle without Buddy. And to no surprise for me, really, able to dominate the forward half strong. You know, really able to apply that pressure, really strong from centre clearances. Hawthorn just simply aren't good enough at the moment. They haven't been good enough for like years. You know, not able to be effective with their ball use, fumbly in possession, and someone's just able to really capitalise on those mistakes that Hawthorn make. You know, it's unforced errors. You know, there's, okay, Swans are pressuring, but when you can go out the back from your defensive 50, take it out to the left wing, and you're fumbling the ball from what should be a simple mark, you know, it's just simply not good enough. You know, and from that, Swan's able to really apply the pressure on the scoreboard, be really dominant in possession, particularly in the forward half. You know, it was absolute carnage. You know, Tom Papley, he was absolutely huge with a huge leap. great grab. He made a good mark. Misses the goal, but can't really take that away from him because he was really creative. So was Isaac Heaney. He always steps up well. Hawthorn just really struggled to score anything. Just couldn't get the clearance, couldn't get the entries inside 50, just because they kept fumbling, couldn't find their targets. It was very, very disappointing from Hawthorn's perspective, but the Swans, they'll be happy. They'll be very, very happy. And we move on to Essendon versus Gold Coast. And this game interests me the most. This was a good game, because it would always be interesting to see how Essendon and Gold Coast could handle everything, and to be fair, these teams look good. Gold Coast, good use of the body inside 50, good clean bump, using that muscle, using that body strength. Dylan Shield kicked a great goal on the burst, put the Bombers back in front. So it was very Gold Coast in front, Essendon in front, Gold Coast back in front, now Essendon again. It's very, very even, very close, hard-fought game. Both teams played fast football with quick handballs and fast kicks inside 50. One thing I would say, Essendon did struggle to close down Gold Coast, despite repeated entries, and then Gold Coast able to get out of the back. A bit like I was saying about Hawthorn, when they could go out the back, and on the left then it was fumbly football. Essendon really struggled to find the targets, but then Gold Coast were able to capitalise on that, and then they're out the back, and then they're able to kick the goals from basically coast to coast. But as I said, other than that, I can't really fault those teams. I thought it was a really interesting game. I thought it was entertaining. It had everything. It had bumps, marks, misses. It had goals. It had fast pace on the burst football. Very, very happy with that. And now we come to the West Coast versus GWS. Now, I gave West Coast a right slating. Last week in round 1. So this was always going to be interesting on how they improved. Giants were able to have an open man in the goal square. No one from West Coast able to really close him down. They just didn't spot him or have that vision. I thought Kelly, a bit like in round 1, able to step up and really give West Coast what they need. That push, that momentum, in the right direction. I thought there was a lot of lack of discipline in this game. A lot of 50 metre penalties being given away. Little shoving, entertaining, but definitely worth the 50. No report required. It was just a bit of a push and a shove after the ball. Rightly so, it's a 50 metre penalty. Holding up the play. You got to let the man get up. GWS able to get the goal from that. Very undisciplined from West Coast. Easy goals for GWS. So I think West Coast have improved from last week. They now just need to work on their discipline. Once they've got the discipline down, once they've improved on everything, they'll be back. I can see them bouncing back. It won't be this season that they bounce back. I can see next year being good for them. But having said that, if they keep struggling with disciplinary, if they keep struggling with what they struggled with in round 1, and they can't improve on this, Adam Simpson's in trouble. Their coach is in trouble. But having said that, I do think they have improved with regards to pressure on the handball. They're able to move the passes quicker. And that became a struggle for GWS, and that's always has been a struggle for GWS, is that quick ball movement. It's something GWS cannot close down, and they've always struggled with it. I thought I liked West Coast's aggression. They just need to work on the discipline of it. I think it's creative. I think it's good. They just need to tone it down a little bit, because GWS are struggling with that pressure. You don't want to give away the penalties and actually give GWS a chance. But yeah, very much improved. And yeah, that is round 2. And now we come on to round 3. I already spoke a bit about Collingwood and Richmond. But the first game is the Bulldogs versus Brisbane Lions. Bulldogs have had difficulties. They have had troubles. Actually, did I talk about... I don't think I talked about... Did I miss again? Hang on. Surely not. Did I miss a game? I think I've missed a game. I don't think I talked about the Bulldogs in round 2. Hang on. Round 2. Did I miss a game? I did miss a game. I missed the Bulldogs versus St Kilda. Because I've watched it. I haven't written about it. I haven't spoken about it. What a silly boy. I've missed a game. I thought I did. What a silly, silly man. Do apologise. I mean, I did watch the game, so I can quickly talk about it off the cuff. Is that the Bulldogs... I'm going to use this as a way of going into round 3, because I forgot to talk about this game. I do apologise, everybody. I had one job. I got it wrong. St Kilda versus Bulldogs. St Kilda really, really dominant. But like I was saying about Hawthorn struggling. Bulldogs really, really struggling as well. In a lot of areas, their centre clearances aren't good enough. They're fumbly in possession. They aren't able to really close down passage plays and get the stoppage. So it'll be really interesting and see how they can really respond from the first 2 rounds, going into round 3, going up against the Brisbane Lions. I'm very interested. St Kilda, very, very strong in possession. They look like a strong team. Whether or not they can keep that momentum going, who knows? But at the moment, very impressed with the Saints. Bulldogs, they need to be better. You know, you've got Adam Treloar, you've got Bontempelli, you've got Bailey. You know, these top gun players with the young guns. You know, you should be winning, at least scoring better. You know, the final result of that match was 92 to St Kilda. 14 goals, 8 to 5 goals, 11, 41. For a Bulldog side that's got those names that I've just mentioned, simply not good enough. Simply need to be better. Do better. It's a do better report. Don't get me started. If you know, you know. Yeah, so hopefully going into round 3, they can be better. I already mentioned earlier about Collingwood versus Richmond. Hawthorn versus North Melbourne. I'm really impressed with how North Melbourne, after winning the wooden spoon last year, which is not a good thing, they've improved a lot. And I really, really think they have a strong chance of beating Hawthorn. In fact, I think it's going to be a blowout. I don't think it's going to be a close game as it was when they were against Freo. I can see them winning this. GWS against Carlton. If Carlton play the same way that they did in round 2, they'll beat the Giants. I think St Kilda versus Essendon, that's going to be a really entertaining close game. I am very excited for the Saints against Essendon. That's going to be entertaining for sure. 100%. Port Adelaide versus Adelaide Crows. I'm excited to see how that's going to go. I've got a feeling Port Power will look to respond to that loss to Collingwood because they started off strongly. They did get blown out. Sorry. Port Power blown out. Oh, Gabba jokes. I need to stop. Yeah, hopefully they can respond to that. Gold Coast versus Geelong. Geelong need to win. They are the reigning premiers, and at the moment they're 0-2. They are just simply not good enough. If we're good against Collingwood, then Collingwood exposed their weaknesses in defence. Carlton did it relentlessly during their game. Okay, Jamie Cameron able to bang 6 goals for Geelong is good, but they need more. They need to do better. Melbourne versus Sydney Swans. After Melbourne's performance, very, very disappointing. Swans have a strong chance. I'm excited to see what's going to happen there. And then we've got Dockers against the West Coast Eagles. After Frio's performance, very, very disappointing. Huge disappointment on Frio's part. Okay, they could have leveled up, but North Melbourne dominated possession. They dominated the ruck. They dominated centre clearance. All these little areas. Okay, it was a 1-point game, but the statistics really were North Melbourne's favour, and they deserved that win. So it'll be interesting to see if Freo can respond to those things I've just mentioned and how they can apply it to trying to beat West Coast Eagles. Whether they can or not, I don't think they can. I think it's going to be a hard-fought game. I think it's going to be a very, very close game. I'm going to put it out there. I'm going to put this out there. West Coast by 5 points. I never get these right. I never get the scores right, but I'm willing to put my mortgage on it. West Coast, 5 points. Beat Fremantle. I hope you all enjoyed this. Apologies for missing the Bulldogs and St Kilda game. I don't know what went wrong there. Human error. I hope you all enjoyed. See you all next week. See you all in the next one. Be sure to like and subscribe. Bye.